ओ ओ ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमु रामाय तस्मै नमः रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम् रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् Hari Om everyone, welcome to the day 3 of our retreat. Quick recap of what we saw yesterday. We started our discussion with who is a jiva? And then we saw wherever there is an expression of life, that we can say is jiva. But the fine-tuned understanding of a jiva is that sense of individuality that we have in ourselves. That is why we use the word jivatva. That sense is called as jivatva, and one who has that sense is called a jiva. So that's a little finer version of this word called jiva. Then it took us into what is the law of karma, because this is the jiva which is having the ability to do karma. So what are the choices that are there? So we said we are not victims of our past, we might be product of our past. So this karma siddhanta is a very detailed topic for us to think about. And I had made a statement which said, if we did not have free will, then it would as though be that scriptures are futile. This would be a defect that would come. Shastra anarthakya prasanga. Now, what it means is, none of the scriptures tell us that we will get moksha just by default. Means if we are destined to be liberated, you will be liberated. Instead, they tell us we should put forth self-effort, we should put forth effort in changing our personality. Now, if there was no free will, there would not have been any need for them to even write those things. That is called as Shastra Anarthakya Prasanga. Because Shastras have said that we should put forth effort, that itself shows that there is free will. Now, how much effort is needed to change something? That discussion we had yesterday. Number of times we have hit that nail. If it is 20, then 20 plus 1 to take it out. Okay, so then we saw how much of self-effort we should put and also have forbearance when we don't see the results immediately. And by the way, I'm seeing the questions also that all of you are submitting. Tomorrow we have a separate segment for Q&A. So some of those questions we can discuss that also. Then we went into the concept of Swarga and Naraka. Here also, I had made another statement that whenever heaven is discussed, Swarga is discussed, for a spiritual seeker, it is said going to Swarga is an obstacle. Now, why is that? It's because whenever a lot of pleasures are available, whenever everything that we want is available, the mind is not ready. Mind doesn't even want to think about something higher. Right? So when a lot of pleasures are available, this mind does not want to study Vedanta, nor does it want to bring about change in itself. So for such a seeker, it is said the journey will get delayed more and more. Right? That which the seeker could have got right away, if something else comes in between, which takes the mind away, the pleasures, of Swarga. So that is why it is said it's an obstacle. Best way is what I said yesterday was right here and now, bringing sadhana chatushtaya, making our heart ready for Vedanta, and just gaining this knowledge thoroughly and being free. Happiness is what we want, right? So Vedanta says that happiness we promise. Why necessarily go to Swarga and then come back and do this kind of jugglery? Another statement also you might have heard, Swarga and Naraka is right here. If the mind is quiet, that is heaven. And if mind is agitated, that mind is hell. Right? This statement also we have heard, which is true. Because when we use the word Swarga, what we mean by that is the joys that we get, right? Happiness. A quiet mind is a happy mind, and an agitated mind is a unhappy mind. So the Naraka Dukkham, what we get, that we are getting here only. But in addition to that, we should not dismiss the fact that there is a world which is called as Swarga. Because there are 14 worlds which our Shastras describe. So based on Shastra Pramana, Veda as our Pramana, we cannot dismiss the fact that there is a separate world called as Swarga. Again, what is the proof? Proof is again Vedas only, because they have been talking about Swarga. Okay, with that, we moved on to the next topic, that this Punarjanma, does it have to keep going on and on and on? He said, no, there is a way out of it, that is getting moksha. There also we saw 3 different levels. So now we'll move on to the next segment, which is Srishti Vichara. Okay, this is called an inquiry into creation. Now somebody might wonder, why should we inquire into creation? The previous topic where we left was called Bandha Moksha, right? Until that point, we were talking about Jiva. So now we are moving into Jagat part. Srishti means Jagat has come. But another thing we should keep in mind is, when we talk about liberation in Advaita Vedanta, we are talking about Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, means complete cessation from sorrow. And when we talk about complete cessation, we cannot ignore anything. Right? We are part of this world, we are living in this world. We cannot ignore the fact, where did this world come from? What is the nature of the world? So Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, if we want, we have to inquire into ourselves and also nature of this world. This is one way to look at it. There are many ways why we need inquiry into creation. So now a little bit more. Why thinking about creation is important in Vedanta. Now let us say there is somebody who just inquires into who am I? Okay, this is creation and all, I don't want. Let me inquire into who am I? Now the problem that comes with that inquiry, or only that inquiry, is I'm okay when I'm by myself, when I'm sitting in one place. When I get up from that seat, world is bothering me. That is the problem. Okay, if we just inquire into who am I, it's a great step to do and everybody should do it. But we cannot just stop there. Vedanta says there is another side to inquire into. Okay, this is who we are talking about, one who has not inquired into nature of the world, only inquired into who am I. What is the other side? That sadhaka likes to think about the world, but never thought about himself or herself. That is the other side. So that sadhaka feels, I am okay when I'm with people. But it is afraid of solitude. Very, very scared to be in one place and spend time. Because who am I? That mind itself is giving so much trouble. Not gone beyond the mind. So being by ourselves, that sadhaka feels very afraid. So these are the two extremes. Okay. So Vedanta says we should inquire into both, because what Vedanta is promising is complete cessation from sorrow. And therefore, inquiry should be very thorough. Our Guruji gives an example of accounting. He says if you are settling some accounts, right? And if we end up with $50 more in our account, he says we should not be too happy about it. Because account has to match, right? Account has to be thorough. You cannot say because I got $50 more, I am happy. Tomorrow it might be less. So like that, it has to be a complete and thorough inquiry. So now let us look at some big picture ideas that we have. We'll start with what is our general idea of creation. We say, what is creation? We say this plant, this tree, look at the mountains, so beautiful. Animals also, we think about those in safari and all, nice, elephant and all. That is our general idea sometimes about creation. Now, cause hunting, it is said, is the passion of human intellect, right? Whenever humans have thought about creation, they have thought about some part of creation. And a lot of science has developed from that particular aspect of inquiry. And some people have inquired into what is the cause of this entire creation, not only just one small portion, but this entire creation as a whole. Where did it come from? What is its nature? That is what we are going to look at it right now. We are not interested in part of creation, but we are interested in this entire creation, where it has come from. Now another way, very practical way of looking at why we need to inquire into this creation. Now we'll build it up in steps. This is the first step. Let us say we go to Disneyland. Okay, many of you might have gone there if we were not in this lockdown situation this time. Now if I'm going to spend a day there, I need to know what am I interacting with. What are the things that are there in this whole place that I'm going to spend one full day? Then only my relationship with that place would be in the right way. Or I will miss out so many things, right? In one day, if you don't know this place was here, after you come back, you realize, oh, and somebody else comes and says, did you go here? It was so nice. And then you say, okay, that is what I missed. I should have seen it before. So like this, when we talk about creation, there are some questions that we can ask. And a very simple question that we can ask is creation dependent on us, or are we dependent on creation? Okay, as a jiva, we don't have to go to the absolute level yet. A very transactional question we can ask is, are we dependent on creation, or is creation dependent on us? Answer is very simple. We are dependent on creation. Meaning, if we are not there, creation is not going to fall down. Right? Things which are here, they can in fact run better if we don't interfere in between. But this is that first aspect about creation that we realize that we are solely dependent on it as these jivas. And in our Vedas, there are so many mantras that come regarding this aspect. One of the mantras is this one. There are several of them. Simple one is, which conveys this idea, is this mantra, which says, Syona Pruthivi Bhavanukshara Niveshani Yachana Sharma Saprataha. Means it's a prayer to Mother Earth that may you keep nourishing us. May there be prosperity and abundance. And a lot of our festivals that are around this harvest season, right? They have their roots in this understanding. Right? Every culture you will see has some festival which has this as the understanding that we are dependent on creation. That is why we have to think about creation. Huh? This is the first transactional level at which we can think about it. And I was thinking the other day, you strike out the word creation here and replace it with certain other words. You can strike out creation and put the word organization. Is the organization dependent on me, or am I dependent on organization? Company you call, or wherever we are working, a larger group of people. Also put family there, right? Then it will shift things and say how much we should care about things which are around us and how much sensitive we should become to resources around us. So that is this scaling of Vyashti Samashti. That concept comes in several texts, that it is this individual needs to know how to fit into this bigger picture. Now a little bit closer look at creation. What was our first definition of creation? All the mountains, rivers and everything, right? That is a big picture idea of creation. Now what is Vedanta's view of creation? A little bit, finer definition. Yad yad idam traya drishyate tad jagat. Whatever is known as this, that is called creation. That is called jagat. These definitions, if you can hold on to, right, our thinking will become very precise and a lot of other things will fall in place, whatever Vedanta is talking about. So let us fit this definition. What is the first one? Mountains and rivers are known as this, right? We say this mountain, this river, and so on. Now we should come one step closer. Okay. House, car, all of that is known as this. And this is the same car from our Drigdrishya Viveka class. Same car it is. That is what I brought here. Now come a little bit closer. Our body is also known as this. We say this body, right? Yad yad idam taya drishyate tad jagat. And now even a step closer, mind is also known as this. We might erroneously say, but actually we never say even erroneously. We never say I mind. We say my mind. If it is my mind, I am different from mind. My body, I am different from body. My car, I am different from car. That I is actually referring to consciousness. We have mixed it up with something else and then we erroneously use that term. But for this analysis purpose, let us just take what is creation, right? Whenever in Vedanta creation is pointed out, it starts from mind and goes until Brahmanda. Right? In Drigdrishya Viveka we saw this. Vikshepa Shaktir Lingadi Brahmandantam Jagat Srujet. Creation, when we talk about, it is not only what we see outside, it starts from our own mind and then goes until several lokas that can be created. Okay, this is a little bit finer definition of creation. Now somebody might ask, why are we discussing all these things? What is the implication of understanding that mind and body is part of creation. The direct implication is whatever is the nature of creation that we are familiar with, the same will be the nature of our body and mind. Means if creation outside constantly undergoes change, our body also will undergo the same change. Not having the expectation that this body will remain the same, that itself is a great understanding. Or accepting this fact that this body will continuously undergo change, just like anything of this creation, right? You see a house which is there. Now that house has started falling apart and so many things are crumbling down. That is how the nature of creation is, and such is the same nature of this body also. That is why Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji said in Bhaja Govindam that we should not have wrong expectation and pride about anything of this creation. You all remember that verse? This is that verse. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam tadvad jivitam atishaya chapalam. Then look at the next verse. Vidhi vyadhi abhimanagrastam lokam shoka hatam cha samastam. That is this concept, that if I have understood that nature of creation is to constantly undergo change, even this body will also undergo the same kind of change. This thinking itself will give a lot of maturity in terms of not having wrong expectation from body. Okay, this is one aspect of thinking. Now let us take a quick look at what are the theories about creation. Okay, what did we start with? Srishti Vichara, inquiry into creation. Now we were going into Srishti Vadaha. This is not Vada, don't read it as VADA. Vadaha. Srishti Vada. The first, as I had mentioned before, there are two levels at which Vedanta discusses about creation. One is a relative standpoint, another is absolute standpoint. Actually, every topic has these two standpoints, relative and absolute. So in particular about creation, it is helpful to know what is a relative standpoint and what is absolute standpoint. So when it comes to relative standpoint, Vedanta says that this creation goes back into a seed and it comes back from that seed. It is eternal. It is not a new creation. Okay, the seed which is there, that seed alone manifests, which is called as Avirbhava. Okay, the same seed of this Maya you call, this topic will come later. But the point is, it is not a new creation which is coming up. It is called manifestation of names and forms. And when pralaya happens, pralaya means dissolution happens, this manifest form goes back into the seed state, which is called as Tirobhava. Okay, becoming manifest and going back into unmanifest. But most importantly, that sun you see down there, that is consciousness. The root or the substratum of this creation is from consciousness. That is Vedanta's view of creation. Now, relative standpoint, we'll go into absolute later. Relative standpoint only looks like, it is the absolute standpoint sometimes. That source or origin of creation is consciousness. And from this consciousness, there is a seed in which everything is stored. And the same seed is coming up when there is creation, which is called as manifestation. And then it's going back into unmanifestation. Now this is depicted in our Puranas as Lord Vishnu, who is lying on Sheshanaga. And from his nabi comes a lotus. On that is Brahmaji, who is, further elaborating this creation. Now, once this story was being told to Balvihar student, that student had a question. I have a question, like that, they raised their hand. If Lord Vishnu is sleeping and there is this Nabi coming, there is this lotus coming from the navel, how does it turn around? Because if he turns around, Brahmaji is sitting there, either he will fall or something will happen. So that Swamiji was wonderful. He said, when Lord Vishnu turns around, it is called as Pralaya. Beautiful answer, huh? Deep answer, that when manifest creation goes back into unmanifest, that is called as Pralaya Avastha. But it has not gone anywhere, it is going to come back in next cycle of creation. That is a very high level idea of what is creation. Now, sometimes we have this question, what is this creation? Who is this creator who made this entire thing? Right? That question comes many a times. So we'll try to look at it from one perspective. Whenever we see a painting, right, that painting itself is a proof that there has to be a painter. Right? Whenever we see anything which is so beautiful, everything is in order, the color has been nicely put, and some creation has come about, that painting, what we are seeing, itself is a proof that there has to be a painter. Why do we say this? That brush might be there, this paint might be there, all the instruments which are needed for that painting might be lying there, unless there is some sentient principle, sentient entity that is holding the brush and painting, that picture cannot come about. Right? If we just keep color and the canvas and everything in its place, inert matter by itself cannot start organizing itself. There has to be a painter who is a sentient principle. That is the main part here. Sentient entities needed to bring about a systematic, orderly thing. This we call as yad karyam tat sakartrukam. Means whatever is karya, whatever is produced, a painting or whatever, that always needs to have a painter. Means a creator has to be there whenever there is a creation. Okay, every creation has a creator. Now, if this we understand, let us look at what are the qualities that this painter should have. First is, this painter should have the knowledge. Right? The painter should know how to bring this painting together. He should know how to arrange the colors and everything. That knowledge should be there. That is called as Jnana Shakti. Second is, he should have the resolve. Some kind of desire should be there that I have to do this painting. Now, he might know about how to paint. If he does not have that resolve or desire, then there is no way this painting can come about. And third, of course, resources should be there to act. Right? That is called as Kriya Shakti. Three things for a painter: Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. Now, all of that together, when it comes together, this painting will come about. But what should we take away from this? That whenever we see a creation, there has to be a sentient creator. Okay. Now we come to this creation. This was the example portion. Now, this creation also, when we see, that itself is a proof that there has to be a creator. Means everything in this creation is working with such an orderly fashion, and which we cannot take credit for. Jiva cannot take credit for all the natural phenomenon that is going into this entire creation. The confusion added, that you leave aside. Jiva is what we add, confusion that we cannot include here. That is our part. But just if you look at how does this creation function, even the animals, right? The kind of skin that they have, how does it match with the kind of environment that they live in? The process of the water cycle, if we just take that as an example. Now, science gives us explanation, but the very fact is it is in an orderly function. Huh? What we are trying to say here is that orderliness in this creation cannot come about without a sentient, conscious entity working behind it. That is where the same analogy we apply. Okay, what is the painting here? Painting is this entire creation. And if you apply the same logic, yad karyam tat sakartrukam, then we come to this fact. There has to be a sentient principle which is there working behind this entire creation, whom we call as Bhagwan. Okay, Bhagwan, whenever we hear the word, there are different understandings that we should develop. This is one of it. Bhagwan is that sentient principle, consciousness, which is working, which is pervading this entire creation, which is making things to happen in a particular way. Law of this creation is maintained because of this sentient principle. This is in Vedanta called as Nimitta Karanam, sentient cause. Now apply the same logic. What does this sentient cause need to have? Three things, just like that painter, right? Knowledge about this entire creation. How this karma phala has to go to each of these jivas. How things have to come about like it was in previous creation, right? All of those things will be brought about. So knowledge about creation has to be there. That is why we say Bhagwan is Sarvajna. Okay, that word Sarvajna, what we hear, right? In puja also we chant, that comes from this point. And resolve should be there, just like that painter, right? Has to have a resolve to make this creation. Infallible is Bhagwan's resolve. That's why Bhagwan is called as Satya Sankalpa. Okay, that is Bhagwan's title. And Bhagwan is having all resources. That is why he is called as Sarva Shaktiman. Okay, these names, whenever we read Lalita Sahasranama, Vishnu Sahasranama, elaboration of these ideas will be given through different names. And more we can tune with this understanding of Bhagwan, more we can benefit in our life. Okay, this is from a logical standpoint. Huh? What is our main pramana to say Bhagwan is there? We say Upanishad say so. Vedas say so. That is why that is our main strength. Based on that, you use logic. Now, this logic, what I just presented, this is given by Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji in Kenopanishad. He logically proves in Kenopanishad why we need a sentient principle behind inert matter to function. Now, later, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji ends up in a discussion with some other scholar who tries to use logic to prove that Bhagwan is there. Bhagwan Shankaracharya tells him, why do you need logic? Our main pramana is Vedas are saying so, there is a sentient principle, use that. But to strengthen that, we should use logic. Because logic is a very tricky thing. You can use it to refute it also. Any topic you take, logic can be used to establish it, logic can be used to refute it. That is why it is said, Shrutimatas tarkonusandhiyata. Use logic which is in line with Upanishad. Okay, this connection has to be understood between what we discussed about pramana and everything in the past. Okay, so this is about nimitta karana. Huh? First is sentient cause has to be there. Now we say, okay, there is Bhagwan who is the sentient cause pervading this entire creation. What is the material cause? Right? With what material did Bhagwan create this entire thing? Material cause, I hope you understand that, right? If you are making a pot, you need a potter who is the sentient cause. And you need the material, right? You need the clay. If you are doing the painting, you need the painter who is the sentient cause. And you need the color and everything that is called as the material cause. Now, in this painting of this creation, what was the material that was used? Now, somebody says atoms, atoms and molecules and everything that have come together, and that is what Bhagwan used to make all this entire creation. Now, the question we are asking is, what is the origin of creation? What is that primordial material from which this creation has come about? Right? What is the cause of creation? When we ask, we cannot take a part of creation and point it as the cause. The definition of creation is whatever is known as idam. Yad yad idam taya drishyate tad jagat. So these atoms and molecules, everything is known as idam. It is part of creation. It cannot be cause of creation. Second, we can say is elements. Fire, water, earth, space, all those elements that are there. So that is the material which we used. The same problem comes there. That itself we are calling as creation. We are saying what is the cause of this creation. So when we inquire in that direction, we realize that Bhagwan, this consciousness, that consciousness itself has become the material cause also. That same consciousness is the sentient cause that we just discussed before. And the same consciousness has become the material cause with which this entire creation, or from which this entire creation has come about. In other words, substratum of this creation is consciousness. That is where comes this word, abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Abhinna means what? That same thing. Consciousness alone has become nimitta karanam, and consciousness alone has become upadana karanam. Okay, that is why when we say creation is divine, it has this understanding as its root. Now, where did we get this idea from? Later we will see. There are Upanishad mantras which say that from consciousness this creation has come about. That same consciousness has become this creation. Now, there are many questions that come up. We'll take it up gradually, one by one. Means if we want to summarize it, it is Bhagwan himself has become this entire creation. Now the idea is reflected in several stotrams that we chant. Right? All of you are familiar with Purusha Suktam. Right? In Purusha Suktam we have this, right? Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishwato Vrutva Atyatishtat Dashangulam. What that means is this particular idea, that same Lord with 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha, Sahasrakshaha, Sahasrapat, thousands of feet, means all hands, all eyes, all feet is Bhagwan's feet only, of that consciousness. As pervades this entire creation and beyond. Okay, that is this mantra. So Bhagwan is not only the creator, he has become this entire creation. That is our, vision of what is this entire creation. It is divine and it has its root in consciousness. Now all of you must be familiar with this story. In Bhagavatam, there is one story comes, especially if you are teaching Bhagavatam. Do you recollect this story? When Brahmaji gets deluded, he starts feeling, why is everybody praising Bhagwan Krishna? I am Brahmaji here. Let me show my power. And then he goes and takes all these Gopabalas and everybody and hides them. All the, the cows are stolen and the Gopas are also stolen. And Bhagwan realizes what Brahmaji has done, and he creates all other, Gopas and the cows, everybody Bhagwan creates. And life goes on. In fact, it is said the parents, the father and mother of those Gopabalas, they were feeling they're even more sweeter because Bhagwan's creation, right? And Brahmaji is thinking that because I have taken away or hidden all these Gopas and the cows, what will Bhagwan will realize my importance. And then, our Brahmaji realizes his mistake and he comes back and does stuti. That Bhagwan is Sarva Shaktiman. He has become this creation. He can create material also. Brahmaji can only play with the material that is already created. Okay, Panchabhuta Srishti is Ishvara Srishti. Brahmaji's role is to make the molds from that material which is given. That is this, symbolism behind that story, that Bhagwan or Ishvara is the Upadana Karanam. After that comes Hiranyagarbha, who is responsible for managing this creation. But there is a boss, above Brahmaji also, that is Ishvara. And Brahmaji does a beautiful stuti, where he says, Anujanihi Mam Krishna, Sarvam Tvam Vetsi Sarvadruk. Tvameva Jagatam Nathaha, Jagadetat Tavarpitam. Means he says, O Lord, this entire creation rests in you, and you are that all-knowing and powerful ruler. And I thought I am Brahmaji. That is this stuti, and beautiful other shlokas also come in that Brahmaji stuti. So this is how Puranas depict part of our creation. Now, somebody has a question. You said there are two standpoints, right? One was relative standpoint. What was relative standpoint? That creation comes from unmanifest into manifest. Okay, that is a relative standpoint. Now, absolute standpoint, somebody asked this question. You said consciousness has come from, creation has come from consciousness, right? It is at the root, you said. How can consciousness, which is non-changing, it is a changeless entity, how can that consciousness undergo change? That is the question that this sadhaka has now. That takes us into the absolute nature of creation. Okay, that we'll just quickly see this, and later we can continue in the next session. That you said consciousness is the sentient cause and it is also material cause. That is what we saw, right? Abhinna nimitta karana and upadana karana. Now somebody says, does consciousness become sentient cause? Does it become material cause in the way milk changes into yogurt? Means one way. It has actually become the other. Once milk becomes into yogurt, you cannot reverse it back, right? Is it something like that? That this consciousness has become now sentient cause, it has become material cause? Has it actually transformed? We say no, it has become the cause, just like the mirage water that is seen in desert sand. Means desert sand has transformed into mirage water, not by actually transforming, but by becoming the substratum and mirage water being the appearance. The rope has become the snake, not by actually transforming, but just by being the substratum. What is appearing there is only an erroneous perception. That is where Vedanta adds another word in between, what is called as vivarta. When we say consciousness is the cause of creation, it is vivarta karanam. Okay, it is appearing differently without actually undergoing any change. Just like rope is appearing as the snake without undergoing any change. Just like desert sand is appearing as mirage water without undergoing any change. That is where we enter into what is the absolute nature of creation. All of this inquiry has to come back to us. Later on, something else is going to be said, which is very important. Right now, it might look like a theoretical idea, right? Like you're talking about material cause, efficient cause, or sentient cause, and so on. But everything will tie back. Okay, that we will see in the next session. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.